to day 3, session 3 of PreDAC 2021. I'm your host, Barrington Miller, Director of Issuer Engagement at the Canadian Securities Exchange. And today we are talking all things Indigenous. The whole day was called Indigenous Day, simply because there is so many facets and so many things to explore. Thank you if you've traveled with us on this journey for the past few days. We definitely appreciate it. For people in the audience, we encourage you to use the chat feature, have discussions. If somebody reaches out, the only way you can communicate with them is if you accept. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Graeme Wedge. Oh my gosh, my notes. Graeme Wedge is the Senior Manager of Mining Advisory Services Leader at MNP. And on his panel, he will have Eric Zakrewski from Thunder Bay, John Mason, and Madeline Dennhardt. And we are going to jump right into this with a video.
It seems to some that in order to qualify as somewhere, you need longer commutes, costly land, a stubborn status quo. If that's true, we'll gladly take nowhere. Our close proximity to world-class gold and palladium deposits makes us the perfect conduit to service and supply northwestern Ontario's untapped resources to the rest of the world. Local schools and industry work together to create the next generation of engineers, geologists, and miners. Our far-reaching, hard-working supply chain fully supports mining projects across the entire region. Here, there's a harmony that runs through each person, family, community, and company, all working together to create and share success. Not despite where we are, but because of it. Welcome to the new somewhere. Welcome to Thunder Bay.
I'm going to turn it over to Graeme. Take it away, Graeme.
Thanks, Barrington. Hi, everyone. As Barrington introduced us, I'm Graeme Wedge, Senior Manager and Mining Advisory Services Leader at MNP. I'm excited to welcome you to this panel with our friends from the Thunder Bay Community Economic Development Commission. Today, I'm joined by Eric Zakrewski, Chief Executive Officer, John Mason, who's the Project Manager of Mining Services, and Madeline Dennhardt, who's Information and Marketing Officer. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging that Thunder Bay is on the traditional territory of the Fort William First Nation, signatories to the Robinson Superior Treaty of 1850, and we also acknowledge the shared lands of the Métis people. This is out of respect and recognition for the Indigenous peoples of Canada. So many of you know MNP for our work in taking numerous exploration and mining companies public, but today we want to share with you more about our consulting services at MNP. That we do beyond just auditing and corporate finance in the mining industry. So with the resurgence we're seeing in the mining sector, the recent strategic planning project, which we are showcasing today, displays the importance of knowing the contemporary business environment and awareness of human capital landscape. And along it demonstrates the value of listening to the industry participants to help develop a solid strategic plan behind your exploration and mining operations. So I've brought our friends from the CEDC here today to talk about the Mining Readiness Strategy Study Project that we just recently completed to help guide the strategic actions which the city could take to help facilitate mining activity in Northwest Ontario. One of the key takeaways that we want to leave you with is the applicability of this kind of strategic planning approach for economic development and operational considerations, really no matter where you are in the world. So before we hear from our panelists, I'll provide you some context about the MRS project itself. So the CEDC and MNP, we kicked off the project last September and completed in early December 2020, so just a little over 3 months. The focus region is Northwest Ontario, and the driver of the study are the 6 operating mines and 15 major exploration projects currently active in the region. There were 6 strategic areas which the CEDC wanted MNP to address, and we'll discuss further in a few minutes with our panelists. MNP's consulting approach is very integrated and collaborative. We work very closely with the CEDC to ensure we stayed focused on the objectives, scope, and completed on time. The final report recommendations are based on industry-led responses and data. MMP conducted over 40 interviews with various mining companies and industry stakeholders to hear from them how the CEDC could help facilitate and share information about mining in Northwest Ontario. This industry-led strategic planning approach ultimately produced higher quality results. The report concludes with 7 areas of actionable, achievable recommendations focused on improving communications, knowledge transfer between stakeholders, education and training needs, and which business sectors are priority to support the rapidly increasing regional mining activity. So if you would like to review the report, it is available at go-to-thunderbay.ca. So with that backstory about what the project accomplished, I'll have Eric, John, and Madeline talk about some of the more specific project details, goals, and objectives of the CEDC, and the exciting opportunities for Thunder Bay in Northwest Ontario. So we'll first start with Eric and John. When I think back on the MRS project, we went in with the objective of identifying strategic guiding framework that Thunder Bay would follow for the next number of years to help facilitate the exploration and mining industry. There was a lot of preliminary data and insights on how we'd be sourcing the supportive information for the study. So Eric, I'd just like to ask, where did we find these insights to base our recommendations upon?
That's a great question. Thank you, Graeme. Really, the whole study and the process was founded on the connections with the key stakeholders. It's what drove the study and sets it apart, I think, from others that we've seen. We literally got the data and the information directly from 18 exploration mining companies. I think about 25 associations were involved, as well as, of course, as you mentioned, the 6 operating mines and 15 exploration projects in Northwestern Ontario. Those participants included a number of trade unions, training organizations, certainly Indigenous communities and organizations, mining associations, the local Confederation College, the local college, Lakehead University, electrical authorities, and various other key stakeholder groups. So we received a wide and diverse range of responses that clearly articulated the needs of the mining sector in Northwestern Ontario. In total, we actually heard from 43 stakeholders in the region, and we had a return rate of about 93%, I think, which is phenomenal in terms of yielding really great information. So these industry-driven responses, they really set the 1 to 10 year framework on how Thunder Bay and Northwestern Ontario can move forward and ensure that industry needs are met and that there's a strong foundation for this sector. Key mining companies are telling us what their needs are, both today and for tomorrow, and that really will allow local businesses and groups to position to cater for their needs and growth. Thank you.
That's excellent. Thanks, Eric. And so knowing this and the types of industry stakeholders, the people we talked to, there were specific strategic objectives and themes that we wanted to cover in this study. So John, could you talk more about the specific objectives and themes?
By all means, thanks, Graeme, for the opportunity, and Barrington for hosting this event. I appreciate that. From the standpoint of key themes, let's start with the business sector first. We're blessed with having about 400 service and supply industries in Thunder Bay that engage the exploration and mining sector. They were a key piece that we really want to grow. They represent businesses that vary from 6 employees to 160 employees, a wide range. The pleasant observations that came from MNP and TBT engineering studies from the companies indicated that about 70% of the buying is local to local businesses, which is huge when a mining company may have 700 to 1,200 companies on their roster for procurement of goods and services. They are economies unto themselves, one mine. Those 400 service and supply businesses then will grow. I would also argue they will grow on by virtue of the details of the study on the production side. We're going to grow to about 2.2 million ounces of palladium and gold production, doubling our production as of 2020. On the workforce theme, which is a second key theme, That's one of the areas whereby we looked at the current employment numbers. There are about 3,600 direct employees in the 6 mines. And some of these mines have 25 to 30% Indigenous employment. The mining sector is the largest employer of Indigenous peoples in terms of industry and commercial sectors. With pride, we see that as a future point. About 1,000 of those employees live in Thunder Bay, and that will grow as these mines come on stream, as these 15 advanced projects over the next decade hit the finish line as new producers. M&P's analysis, I thought, was very straightforward and brought in secondary and tertiary value from the standpoint of breaking down the types of job sets that are illustrated. So right from management, supervision, through to supply and service based on the trades, based on professional positions, metallurgists, geologists, engineers, for example, operators, heavy equipment operators, the need for miners as well, and laborers within this particular sector. So it's broken down, and that forecast is before us, indicating this growth. Transportation and electricity were also covered. We have 3 projects that are stranded with no road access at this point. We hope to advocate to have that altered. Electricity is a concern into 2 of the areas. We're going to grow from about a 190 megawatt load in Northwest Ontario as the largest user of electricity. It is the mining sector. And that'll grow by 180% to about 540 megawatts of required power. So some of the electrons have to get into various mining districts, and we're working hard with IESO and Hydro One, who are, by the way, as Eric mentioned, part of our study. So that'll help plan for the future and make sure these facilities can be powered up and these mines can come on. The economic impact was also studied by M&P, as I understand it, Toronto, Thunder Bay, and Vancouver offices, and this brought to light the fact we're going to have economic outputs of exceeding $8 billion within the next 5 years. 2027 to 29 are key times, and I'll say it again, well over that $8 billion mark, which is huge for us. The study also uncovered opportunities for research and development, value added, gaps, and brought in facilities like Lakehead University and Confederation College that, as well as private deliverers as well of services that Eric referred to. Thanks, Graeme.
Okay, that's great, John. Yeah, and we had very clear scope items. We had a very a broad scope, and a lot was accomplished. And so I know our efforts created a trickle down effect and identified some other areas of opportunity in the city. You mentioned them just besides just at the mine sites, but could you talk a little bit more about the trickle down effects and as you mentioned, research, innovation, things like that?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'd be pleased to. Very briefly, certainly with respect to the mine service and supply and how Thunder Bay interacts with that, became clear that we have some gaps, some encouraging opportunities, the best way to look at it, for mine developers, underground mine, ground support materials such as steel and shotcrete, to get specific, to also look at mine supply from health and safety, accommodation, catering services for the operations that come out as indirect and induced businesses quite often that play in those spaces. And we also saw the opportunity for logistics and transportation to be improved to get these critical spares and these parts and equipment and supplies to and from as a major hub or home, as many of people call Thunder Bay in terms of its strategic geographic location. We also look to your point on research and development and innovation. Lakehead University, I actually chair the advisory board for Lakehead University's Center of Excellence for Sustainable Mining and Exploration. There's a natural fit as they move forward specifically with, as one of the universities that really embraces the Indigenous community, strong pull all of their students into that space. On the mining space, it's even stronger in exploration. So they have a very strong support system and strong research connection on mineral processing and mineral deposit studies, particularly for palladium and gold at this particular point. College has a strong pre-trades, dual credit and trade system within their tech hub, which our Economic Development Commission supports. And they provide the workers of the future in areas like welding, millwrights, heavy equipment operators, mechanics, you name it. So they're ideally suited, as are a number of First Nation organizations that provide virtual reality, automation, various types of innovation and robotic type pieces. And there's 3 or 4 of those Indigenous companies in Thunder Bay that we really look up to as leaders in that area. On the, it was mentioned there, Eric mentioned the contributions really of organizations like Fort William First Nation, who, again, we were on their territory, very strong forward-looking economic development group that provide health and safety, as well as opportunities around business and development growth. NADF and Anishinaabe-Aski, their education and training system comes into play for training of Indigenous workers for the workplace, the mining workforce, for both exploration and mining. That's a key one, as is Nokiwen Tribal Council, another piece in that puzzle. I want to leave you with my last comment on that strength, and that would be the industrial and commercial land that we have. Some of the documents that were shared with M&P, as you're aware of, Graeme, were our employment land study, our brand new, newly minted from the Corporation of Thunder Bay official plan with all sorts of updated mapping, identifying key light and heavy industrial land as well as commercial land. So this is, to give you examples, this land can be used for everything from mining head offices, and we have several in Thunder Bay and several branch offices in Thunder Bay. It can be used for exploration office sites, drill core facilities, and processing facilities as well. Fort William First Nation has a very robust industrial land planning process in place led by DST or Englobe as they complete the alignment of all of their resources that are on those lands, the various types of attributes. That's growing, as is city-owned and private land. So a lot of options as a remarkable location, the center of a continent that has access to seaway, road, rail, highway, you name it. A very modern jurisdiction that has positive attributes that help us go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely one of the things we heard about Thunder Bay having everything and just so close to the infrastructure needed to support mining and operations. And you know, you're talking about the numerous opportunities that you know, the study and then now the follow-on mining readiness program is bringing to the city. You talked about some of the other business opportunities, and one of the features of the study was that we looked not solely just on the precious metal space, but also on the critical mineral space and the opportunities for Thunder Bay. So maybe could you talk a little bit more on the critical mineral space?
Yeah, by all means, certainly. When we talk about, to give you examples of critical minerals or elements, one thinks of lithium, graphite, nickel, copper, chromite. Those are elements. Palladium's another good one that really fit into space where they go into things like literally aerospace, telecommunications, computing. They go into transportation industries as well. And let's start talking about lithium, because 3 of the very spectacular projects that really excites me were lithium projects. And these are advanced lithium projects. They represent some of the larger deposits in central Canada that we see will hit the finish line within the next 5 years. So we'll see 3 producers, Frontier Lithium, Rocktech Lithium, and Avalon Advanced Materials, to name 3 of the projects, that will have concentrating mills on site. They will bring concentrate then to this lithium oxide to Thunder Bay, ideally to a centralized lithium chemical plant that will produce lithium sulfate and then hydroxide. Those chemicals then are ready for the battery industry, for the development and production of batteries. And we feel this fits in ideally with the vision of Canada and Ontario right now. With pride, we saw in amazement, actually, the big 3 automaker and Ontario announcements jointly over the last 4 months, where over $5 billion has been committed to vehicle assembly of electric vehicles for Ontario. This will be a subset of what's going on in Michigan, a huge opportunity for Ontario. So if you reverse that entire supply chain and look at where the minerals are coming from, the key minerals that'll produce those batteries, we have quite a few of those in Northern Ontario, in particular Northwest Ontario, led by lithium. So we see that as a great opportunity to move forward with a chemical plant, provide those value-added opportunities, be innovative and timely, and deal with what's happening before us. So stay tuned. There'll be more information on site selection, engineering, mill design, other opportunities on the back of the lithium sector.
That's exciting. Definitely very contemporary and very exciting. And we touched a little bit on the communities and the effect on the communities, and I think it's a great story how even in this darkest times during the pandemic, and that we're seeing that the project is bringing communities together and stakeholders together with the anticipation of near-term increase in economic activity. I want to dive a little bit deeper there about in the community aspect of the project. And so Eric, could you tell us a little bit more about the surrounding communities, how they've responded to this mining initiative? What do you see perhaps the lasting impacts we're going to see on for Thunder Bay and possibly beyond?
Thanks, Graeme. Well, certainly it's exciting. And one of the interesting aspects to this is that these opportunities are financially, the magnitude is such that I think all communities in Northwestern Ontario are going to benefit to some degree, meaning, they should all rise together with the economic tides of investment around these projects. We're certainly seeing also in terms of Indigenous communities, there's a lot of positive energy there. These projects certainly have the opportunity to create a lot of wealth sharing opportunities and platforms to create commerce and business. And so, we definitely heard loud and clear, and we are continuing to hear loud and clear from communities and Indigenous communities equally that there's a lot of excitement around this. We're seeing companies willing to get to the table early, and Indigenous communities wanting to participate early, form innovative partnerships around these coming opportunities. And we see this as a really key element of success going forward. The one thing we really haven't seen, Graeme, is local communities proximal to some of these projects, thinking sort of in a protectionism sort of manner, or a competitive manner, because the opportunities are so large. I don't think any one community could really hope to capture all the elements and spin-offs and economic benefits. So it's a regional opportunity, and there's been a lot of, we're all in this together, and it's all about capturing as much as possible for the region. When you drill it down, as you say, to the community of Thunder Bay, well, certainly the economic impacts are potentially huge. As John mentioned, we already have over 400 service and supply companies working in the mining space out of Thunder Bay. Our proximity to the 6 operating mines and these 15 major exploration projects, that's certainly an advantage. We're more than just a bedroom community. We're certainly truly a hub to these projects as they advance through the development pipeline. Transportation is certainly a key aspect, and given that we're a deep water marine port, as well as we've got both national railways coming in and out of Thunder Bay, as well as Trans-Canada Highway, we're certainly well positioned for covering the transportation aspects, as well as having a fabulous international airport authority to bring workers in and out of. So those are all certainly strong points. In terms of opportunities around workforce, the city's well positioned to becoming that training hub, or already is a good training hub for skilled trades and mining training centers. In terms of the critical minerals that John mentioned, we certainly see a lot of excitement within the community around some of the clean energy sector. We've got at least one major mine already producing those types of metals, and we've got some other juniors out there with some exciting partnerships with Indigenous communities, so that's very positive as well. Whenever we talk about this level of investment, I think everybody also wants to talk about the jobs. And right now with the current situation, we have over 3,600 mine operation jobs. And this study, one of I think the most fabulous conclusions is that we're expecting that to go over 7,000 jobs at the peak, so almost doubling between 2023 and 2028. So we're certainly going to see more than just operational and construction jobs. Other sectors or other aspects such as human resources, financial support, technical occupations, all of those positions there are going to be thousands of opportunities here. So really, we see strong opportunities for growth right across the platform here. So everyone's very excited is the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. Just huge, opportunities, competitive benefits, and everything that Thunder Bay has. So it's a hugely positive outlook right now. So what's coming? We had quite the undertaking. There's a lot of work to do, but to bring this to life and bring awareness to the CEDC's mining readiness program. So we're going to go to Madeline now. And Madeline, you've been responsible for really bringing this story to the public. Can you tell us more about the critical pieces of your communication strategy and the rollout of the initiative? I think we have some slides there too, Grace.
You're on mute, Madeline.
Nope.
I'll let Grace know when we need to do the slides. And I do apologize in advance. I seem to be having some internet issues, so if I'm a little blurry, it's unfortunate, but the reality of today. Anyway. Because it was really clear in the recommendations that CEDC needed to build a really strong and robust communications and marketing plan around the mining readiness strategy, but also the mining sector in Northwestern Ontario. And it's been brought up so many times that this strategy was very timely, and it was like the perfect timing to come out with this strategy, not only for the sector, but also for CEDC and our marketing. All of the recommendations really align with some of our new efforts. And CEDC's been working very hard to increase our digital presence. So we developed a new website last year, and we are also focusing most of our marketing efforts on digital platforms. And these were recommendations that were in the mining readiness strategy. So by the time we had the completed study, we had already completed some of these recommendations. So that was fantastic to see. So when reviewing the study and the recommendations, it was clear that we needed two separate strategies. So we developed a communications plan around the public release of the study. And then, of course, we created a marketing strategy that involved the digital marketing campaign for mining in Northwestern Ontario. So the first step of the communications plan was really to do a pre-release of the study to the participants and the stakeholders who participated. So that allowed us to kind of like start that conversation with them, open that communication channel. And then when it came to the actual public release of the study, we blasted it out across all of our channels. So we had multiple local and regional media pick it up. We did an announcement across all of our social media channels and really built a lot of excitement and engagement from the beginning around the study. Kind of moving past the announcement, we wanted to kind of keep the ball rolling on the engagement. So we planned a follow-up information session post-release, which happened this morning. It was fantastic. It allowed people to ask us questions about the release. Also, again, like creating that communication channel. And then another great piece for the communications plan was to translate the executive summary. We have a lot of French speaking and Ojibwe in our region, so we felt it was very important to translate the executive summary into those languages to reach that audience. So those are just some of the steps. There was a couple more that involved the communications plan, but in the sake of time, we'll just leave it at that. And then, so for the marketing side of things, we allowed the recommendations to guide our overall marketing strategy. And then they also helped us develop our content and our objectives for the digital marketing campaign. So I do have a couple slides. So here's our actual digital marketing campaign that we developed. We named it Northwestern Ontario Mining, the Next Mining Powerhouse. And with that really strong call to action, join the boom. And with this messaging, we wanted to create almost an excitement and urgency around the opportunities in the mining and exploration sector in Northwestern Ontario. And this messaging will be used throughout our campaign and on our marketing materials, and it will be updated on our website. So when people visit our website, they'll be able to immediately recognize that they are in the best place to find the most up-to-date and accurate information about mining in Northwestern Ontario. We do also plan to use the hashtag NWO mining across all our social media channels and on our marketing material. This will allow for everybody to engage with us, also allow for people to locate and find information regarding mining in Northwestern Ontario very easily. Hashtags are a fantastic tool, so we had to use one for this campaign, obviously. And on the next slide, there's just some quick examples of what the campaign is going to look and feel like. We really wanted to align the campaign with CEDC's branding already, but also kind of give it its own life. We used some different from what the CEDC already uses, but still kind of incorporated them into our branding. We did use a local firm for this because we wanted to ensure that with our marketing and the wide reach it will have, we really wanted to illustrate kind of the feel and the tone of Thunder Bay and Northwestern Ontario. And we definitely didn't want to lose that. So it was really great to work with a local firm as well. And it's been a long time coming. We've been working on this since December, and we're still just, we've completed quite a bit, but we still got a little bit to go. So I'm really looking forward to the rollout of this campaign. And I definitely encourage everybody to check out the mining readiness strategy on our website. And yeah, get engaged with us through there.
Thanks, Madeline. I love the campaign title, "Join the Boom." That's great. It's easy to remember. Very exciting. So before I open up the floor to questions, I have one more for the group about where's the outlook for the next 5 to 10 years, and what great things does the City of Thunder Bay have to look forward to now that you're implementing this CEDC Mining Readiness Strategic Program. So why don't I start with Eric?
Sure. Thanks, Graeme. I think overall it's looking to work with all the stakeholders that we initially engaged and got this data from, and it's going to be carrying this forward. So whether it's, as John said, working with the college on ensuring their programming's in alignment with the needs of, the engineers, the consultants, the contractors, the folks that are going to help build these new mine sites and all the infrastructure, whether it's new highways, new power lines. It's really starting at that grassroots level in the workforce development. So, I know John's already been out there hustling with some real horsepower on the Indigenous workforce development side, and that's really excited me early in this. As soon as we issued this strategy, those folks reached out to John right away and said, they're looking at training workforce. An Indigenous workforce in the hundreds of employees, and they're already out there working on major transmission projects. How do they pivot that into the mining space? Great success story there already, and we've grabbed that and we're helping them get ready for some of this major development. So I think it really starts early on in getting the people ready, and then the people come before the projects, right? The projects are there and we see the pipeline coming over that 1 to 10 years. And if the people are there, then the resources are there, and businesses will be able to capture these opportunities. So I don't know, maybe John has something to complement that or add to it.
Very good. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, just to backstop some of that language, I would agree wholeheartedly. I think one of the pieces we've been working on with a lot of Madeline's good work is global outreach as well. No surprise, there's been a number of mergers and acquisitions, even pre-COVID, in the mining space. And since March, since the pandemic really took hold, and we are definitely in a recession, the mining sector's gone the other way. There's been some positivity around not just job and business growth and opportunity, and bring in GDP and taxation to Ontario. I would argue that this should be one of the platforms for Ontario and Canada going forward as well, especially with the mix on minerals, whether it be gold and palladium, but also these critical elements. So that kind of language we can pass on up the pipe to both levels of government. We can also speak to other jurisdictions interested in investing in Ontario and in specifically Northwest Ontario specific commodities. So we've had some great traction in the last few days. I'm giving an interview tomorrow to a national service and supply organization out of Burlington that represents mining across all of Canada. We have tremendous airplay in the Energy and Mining Journal that just came out yesterday. That hits 120 countries in terms of that play. So it's really to use some of Madeline's Join the Boom language, that was front and center, as was a key article. So I think this all builds the case and the awareness of Thunder Bay and its place in the mining sector. We're blessed with having two of the biggest gold producers in the world, Newmont and Barrick, in front of us, as well as a nice mix of mid tier as well as junior exploration and mining companies. And don't get me wrong, these 15 advanced projects, the study dealt with the facts based on those 6 and the 16 producers, the 15 advanced, but we probably have several dozen entry points over the next 5 to 7 years, if I'm a betting man, that'll enter that space as well. So this is a dynamic world we're in. It's not fixed. It's not frozen in terms of the data we have before us and the opportunity. I think it does come to, it's not all peaches and cream. We do have issues, obviously, with electricity and transportation infrastructure. And we have to work collectively, I would suggest, as all Northern Ontarians, to try and solve these issues, dealing with the electrical entities and hammer home the message. This is just so critical. And last but not least, I think the mix of metals and the mix of projects at various stages is really a blessing. That allows service and supply and the workers as well, particularly led by the Indigenous community. Again, that growth in terms of employment possibilities for the communities of the 134 Indigenous communities in Canada, or sorry, in Ontario, 2/3 of them reside in Northwest Ontario. And as I mentioned, 2 of the mines now have workforces that approach 30% Indigenous employment at this level. Many of these folks Indigenous folks are involved with the exploration cycle as well, and we see that growing. So I think I'm a geologist, I'm biased on the front end of the business. Deposits, because resources are finite in this sector, but I think the coolest thing I've heard to close, Graeme, would be we have vehicles that work underground that are powered by battery technology, lithium battery technology. The ultimate irony is we might be using the same equipment to mine lithium and other bearing rocks that provide the batteries of the future. So it comes full cycle and full circle right there. Nothing more has to be said. Thank you.
Excellent. And Madeline, any thoughts on what you see, the joining the boom? Any thoughts on the campaign and benefits going?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right now we are working very hard to build a really solid foundation for this campaign. It's taken us a little while, but that's okay, because we plan to continue to build on this campaign and build awareness about the opportunities in mining in Northwestern Ontario. And as projects keep popping up and new mines keep happening, there's going to be a never-ending amount of content that we can promote. So it's just going to be an ongoing process, and we really want to expand our reach and tell the world about mining in Northwestern Ontario.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, and with that, we're going to open the floor up to questions. So if you have a question, please put it in the chat. And I see Barrington's come back here.
No, I just came back because I wanted to jump in. I have questions.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
excellent.
We did a project called Mining Over Canada, and we broke out the country into various regions. And I had the privilege and honor of interviewing people, groups, agencies in Ontario. So I got to learn a little bit, not only about north of Toronto, which is just north for me. But I'm also aware that there's at any time, there's 40 active mining projects. Some years it's 38, some years it's 42, but on average, there's about 40. This panel is such a good note to wrap up PreDAC on because of the positivity. And I wanted to, I guess, explore, and you touched on this earlier in the midpoint of the presentation, about taking this elsewhere, about to other communities and other areas, because there's so much positivity that came out of it and is still coming out of it. What would that process look like? Basically exporting the positivity to either other communities, maybe even other provinces. That's the first part. The second part was, I thought it was a really, really good idea for translating, not only in French, but I think you said it was Ojibwe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Ojibwe.
I think it should be a no-brainer. I know I didn't think of that, but it should be obvious, but it's a really great way of connecting. So how would you export this, and how would you encourage it and be an ambassador for something like this?
Well, maybe I'll bite it off first, Barrington. John here. Thank you for the questions. This opportunity, this success. Before I fully answer, I mentioned the Engineering and Mining Journal that just came out yesterday. It's interesting. Steve Fisker, the editor, he picked up on our study, and it was kind of serendipitous. He reported back into his editorial for that magazine, and again, this magazine hits I don't know how many people, but it's well over 120 countries it gets to. Truly international. And he picked up on the same point. He said to me, he says, his words, it's a no-brainer. Why don't other jurisdictions pick up on this and be strategic on their path forward? So I think it's wide open. To specifically get into your question, I would suggest one mine or half of an advanced project could be the minimum for a threshold. And I would suggest, look at your attributes. What type of minerals and what's going on? How advanced are these mines does one have in a district or region? And it could be a traditional land use area for minerals, and your set geography I think are your reference you're going to have to establish early on, and watch what you bite off. See how many community partners you can bring into the fray early on before you settle at terms of reference, and then go on from there. I would suggest should be the approach.
Social media, and I guess this one is going to be directed a little towards Madeline. Now, it was, I mean, yes, we are in a pandemic and people are at home and therefore using social media a lot more and more dependent on it. Are you going to continue with that strategy going forward? Do you see that changing once everything around us starts to change? What's your opinion?
We definitely want to continue to use social media. We are using other digital platforms such as an e-newsletter. And I mean, social media is great in so many aspects where we can engage a wide audience. We can do a lot of targeted marketing. And I mean, and then those metrics that we can gain and to use to better our future marketing efforts to social media. And we do want to, work with our local companies and businesses to help us generate some content around why it is so great to live, work, and do business in Thunder Bay. And using and telling those stories, I find is really impactful on social media. People really engage. And then they're really hearing it from the people who are in Thunder Bay or the region, and they can really relate to those stories and then maybe pique their interest a little bit more towards the mining. So yes, definitely going to keep using social media. It's a fantastic tool, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Oh, thank you. That's it for my questions.
So while we're waiting for some more questions to come in, maybe we'll ask. There was mention that Madeline, that you did a kind of a preview with the stakeholders and the participants and some of the communities that participated in the program. What was the response? How receptive, or the feedback and so forth that you initially received?
Yeah, so with the pre-release, we included obviously the study, but also a little thank you note from John. Having that little personalized touch point, I think, really resonated with some people. We had a tremendous amount of feedback, really positive. They were really excited to see that we were doing something like this. John can speak to this as well, that he's received a lot of great feedback, people wanting to see the study. I think the last time I checked, there was over 100 downloads of the study on our website. So people are really engaged. We had almost 100% open rate of that email. So it's really encouraging to see that, and to see that people are engaged. They want to know more about the mining sector and these opportunities, and maybe see where they can fit in, even if they don't or have worked in the mining industry in the past. There may be opportunities for them in the future. So we've had a great response, and a lot of people are really excited about it.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. John, any thoughts of how others, perhaps the cities responded, or other stakeholders?
Well, one interesting thing that came out, Graeme, in terms of working with city administration, planning services, infrastructure, there was, it was all positive. Good problems got sort of put up on the radar fairly quickly. There was some concerns about whether or not Thunder Bay could meet the needs in terms of housing, and certainly there was a request to look at all the other infrastructure. And the good news is, no one community will bear sort of the, all of the new workforce that may migrate in. I mean, certainly there's going to be some transient aspect to some of the labor force. Certainly we'd like to see as much as possible be developed and retained, and have new folks call Thunder Bay home. But the good news is we're ready in terms of infrastructure. There is housing, there's developments out there that can be scaled up in alignment with the 10-year horizon in the study. So I think there's lots of stories out there across Canada and in North America where smaller towns experience that mining boom cycle, and it actually creates a negative socioeconomic impact on their infrastructure, and it places really heavy demands on urban infrastructure and municipal utilities and things like that, and then all of a sudden the project dries up, in the mines, it goes to decommission, and all of a sudden there's houses everywhere, for sale for cheap. So that, I think this is going to be more of a sustained push that's or a sustainable push for growth, which is great. And the city, our municipal leadership, they've been very supportive of that, and basically whatever we need to do to literally take the results of this study and make sure we're there, we have that support. So really good stuff.
That's excellent. I see we had a comment about 93% participation rate from Alex. Yeah, and I led many of the stakeholder interviews, and I will say that the participation and enthusiasm and the level of commitment and answers that as we conducted our study was excellent. So the positive, definitely it was positive. People see this as with anticipation. They appreciated that they were heard. We took their feedback, and you can see the results. And as we started off this showcase today that we basically said like this was an industry-led response, and I think that's critical. So thank you very much for the compliment, and then just, you know, a credit to all those who participated. So do we have any other questions?
I think we might be approaching the end.
Okay.
If that's okay. I don't see any more questions. People are shy, and yeah. Well, without further ado, I just want to say thank you to our panel and our moderator. This was fantastic information. Oh, I know, I had one. Graeme, and this is a chance for you to plug. Where can people reach you? How do they reach you? How do they contact you?
Yeah, I can put my I'll put my contact info in the chat. It's Graeme Wedge at mmp.ca.
Perfect. Well, I would like to thank our third and final panel, Mining Readiness, Strong Foundations that Create Opportunities Beyond the Mines. I'm going to steal a line. I loved it from Eric when he said, we put people before the projects. That I want that on a shirt, and everybody should definitely practice that. Job creation, economic development, the biggest word though that I heard from this panel is opportunities, and that's all people really, really want. Graeme Wedge, Senior Manager, Mining Advisory Services Leader at MNP. Eric Zakrewski, from CEO of the Thunder Bay CEDC. We couldn't do it without you. We couldn't do it without our panel of experts. Thank you to our sponsors, MNP, OCI, Morelli, DSA, Capital Transfer Agency, Vested.ca, as well as the people behind the scenes and in front with the Canadian Securities Exchange, Anna Sarin, Grace Bedota, Anil Mall, Phil Shum, James Black, Richard Carlton giving the keynote address. This will be available on replay, so make sure you subscribe. Check us out on YouTube, CSE_TV. We'll also appear on various social media platforms and channels. And again, this is PreDAC 2021, and this is only the beginning. The big show is PDAC. It's going to be virtual. We will be there in the investor booth as well as a media partner. Check us out. Make sure you come by and say hi. I've been your host. Thank you for coming on this virtual PreDAC 3-day journey. Been your host, Barrington Miller, Director of Issuer Engagement at the Canadian Securities Exchange. Stay safe and check these projects out. Thank you very much.